I peered inside the helmet of the astronaut's corpse, and all I could see were roses, exactly like the ones I held in my hands, red and beautiful, yet covered in thorns still. I looked around, hoping to see if there were any poor souls such as myself around, but no luck. There was nothing around me except for dirt, rocks, and a ruined city made up of skyscrapers. I could imagine what the city looked like 100 years ago, noisy, busy, and beautiful. A million people that were different from each other with their own complex and crazy lives living within it. Now, it's just an empty remnant of what once was. Taking a look back to the astronaut that lay dead on the ground, I noticed its features more clearly. It was like any other New Age NASA spacesuit, metallic brown and fitted to the wearer's body. The helmet wasn't the usual black though. This one was white and had a moving glass shield on it. From the looks of it, it popped onto the suit instead of twisting on like mine. I put the 3 roses I held in my hands on the ground and began to reach for the roses that the astronaut held in his. My hand steadily grew closer to the roses as I heard a scream off in the distance. It sounded like a child screaming for help. Just as I turned my head to the right to see who it came from, the astronaut gripped my wrist tightly. I let out a slight scream. I wasn't expecting it after all. The astronaut began to pull on me to help itself stand up. I kicked it in the chest as hard as I could and it released its grip. Slowly backing away from the now living astronaut suit, I hear the same child scream again. I bolted towards the sound of the scream. It was in the ruined city of Lost Beauty. I reached the first skyscraper and turned the corner of it to see a gigantic astronaut suit moving slowly. It was the same as the other one, metallic brown and fitting with a white helmet. Its helmet was filled with roses as well, and it held 3 in its hands too. Except, these roses weren't red, they were a neon blue. Around the giant astronaut were 4 normal-sized ones, with different colors once again. Pink, yellow, green, and purple. They were all walking towards a small child in a suit like mine with a rose outstretched in their hands. I looked on the ground for any sort of weapon but found nothing. That's when I heard the scream I will never forget. The child was now letting a shrill, blood-curdling scream out of their lungs as the astronauts covered them. It felt like forever listening to it, but I knew it was only for a few seconds. The astronauts moved away from the child, now holding 2 roses each. The child stood up from the ground holding 3 roses itself, along with a helmet full of them. The color was also different. These ones were orange. Every astronaut in unison looked in my direction, reaching towards me with roses held out. Suddenly, I could hear the footsteps coming. I spun around and saw the astronaut I first encountered moving towards me slowly, its hands reaching for me with a single rose in them. I quickly ran to the nearest building entrance I could find. Running in, I noticed how massive it was on the inside, yet it was nothing like my telephone booth. I ran up the first flight of stairs that were directly center with the front door of the building. Reaching the top, I turned around to see where the astronauts were. They were just now entering the building, possibly giving me a chance to hide, except for the fact that there were more astronauts pouring in from the rooms around me. I ran to a door that had a stairwell sign above it. The stairwell was empty, thank God. I ran up several flights until I reached what was now the top of the ruined building. The floor I was now on was destroyed, except for the cubicles and a single wall behind me. I moved to a cubicle that was nearest to me, and an astronaut rose from the ground. I yelped a little out of habit. Many more astronauts rose from the other cubicles near me. I ran back to the stairwell and saw the astronauts that were following me coming out of the doorway. I was now surrounded. I ran to a broken wall and looked down at the city below. As far as I could see, they were astronauts. Now, I was truly surrounded. I turned back around to face my inevitable fate, but before they reached me, one last thought ran through my head. I wonder what color rose I'll be.